coming tonight as well, and while you guys are really busy for preparing tomorrow. So I think I hope this presentation will make you guys a little bit more fresh from your participating in your works right now. I'm really honored to introduce DRMA and from Peter and Navid from DRMA in Norway. I met them on this summer, maybe around, I think, springtime, and we got a good conversation about the engagement project, follow-up project, etc. So we hope we are really happy to invite them for our workshops. And the RMA is the award-winning architectural office with experience from a very rich variety of projects with architectural placemaking in Norway. So maybe they will present today mostly about their engagement project about everyday labs, right? So please welcome both of them.
Yeah. Is it possible to turn off the lights or? Super. Much better. Nice. Navid and me, we're working together at our office in Norway, and we have like 25 colleagues that works together with us, and we
main office is just outside of Oslo, but we also have a department up in Lofoten in the Arctic region of Norway. And we have also some colleagues sitting in London, and we have one colleague also sitting in Shanghai.
We'll talk a little bit about our projects. Of course, every architect needs to show projects. So there's a few layers in the lecture. Of course, there's a lot of renderings. See past the renderings, but listen also to what we have to say. So we'll divide it up. First, we'll talk a little bit about our approach, and then a little bit of what we do, which project we are engaged in Norway. And then Navid will go deeper into maybe one of our really important projects in Lofoten. It's in a little fishing village up north. And then I will talk a little bit about our hometown, which we've been working on for many, many years. But we've been working on a little untraditional ways. So we'll look at that, and we'll end the session with a skater movie, which we've done as a part of a placemaking project we're doing in Drammen.
Is the sound okay? Do you understand my English? Good.
Super.
Yeah, let's just start.
Let's start. So we called it our everyday lab, but also it's a bit blurry, these pictures, but also we'll talk about big plans and small incisions, because we see that we can, as architects, do lots of impact without doing like the big plan all the way, but because we've learned that it takes like 40, 50 years to have a good strategic big plan and carry it out. But we have to live on the way, and that's why we see this huge potential in the small projects. Our approach then evolves around this. Of course, landscape is being more and more important, maybe more important than architecture these days. And we see nature and landscape as a really important part of the starting point of each project. But also mobility, how we move, how we actually form our cities to move in a good way, so we have this like flow. And then, of course, as we said, what we need in every of our projects to focus on placemaking. So this is the office. This is like 1.5 year ago. This is in the mountain, and all these are like Dermace people. And we're actually doing this sailing. And it's a symbol of how we see at the office. There's a lot of different directions. There's a lot of different ways of seeing things. And everybody has a meaning that is being heard at the office. So we try to understand the city all the way from a bird perspective, and then zoom in on the small details if we can manage that. Just jump in whenever. So in Norway, it's a long country. I don't know if you know Norway. Go there. It's a fantastic place to be. It's like now we've been 3 times to to South Korea, so it has some of the same things, same thoughts, same nature, same also same food. But we have this long coast line, which we are very happy for. But we also have these inland countries. So when we work with, we sort them a little bit from each other, and we have, because every place is unique and it has its own meaning, its own place, its own culture, its own relation to nature. It's like also Norway. Norway and South Korea is also different in many ways. So we have to take that also in consideration when we work with our projects.
The main difference perhaps is, if I'm not mistaken, probably half of the population here lives in or near Seoul in South Korea, while Norway is still one of the few very decentralized countries, that the population is spread out pretty much throughout the whole country. And this opens also up for working a lot with the rural areas and the countryside and many small cities along the entire country. So we don't have this large-scale urbanism, and we're not the second most densely urban populated city in the world at all, but we have a lot of settlements all over the place.
But as you know, we're working with this, I don't like the word, but it has to do with how we organize and how we work as architects in each project, in each place. So we see a lot of our work is like focused on how we can increase health situation, how we can change the demographic situation. There's a lot of elderly people coming. There's a wave coming. So we have to think new in how we program our buildings, how we see our cities. And we have to, of course, look at biodiversity in every aspect of this word. And of course, energy is like a more technical part. So we have tried to sum up this in 11 explorations that we form in our office each day. And well, we can talk about everybody, every 11, but we'll concentrate on the clustering up. And sorry for my voice, it sounds like 16 degrees in Norway 20 hours ago, now standing here in 38. Maybe it's something like that. But anyhow, Cluster Up is like the founding of many of our projects. And if we look at Norway, Norway has this like Navid said, it's like spread out all over the country. And it's been that for ages. So we worked as farmers, as fishermen, and we're trying to adapt to nature and each sense of the word. And looking at these structures is probably one of the most engaging and interesting thing to adapt when we look at bigger structure or smaller structure, but new structure. So we've been, now there is coming in a few like renderings, but here is like some of our approaches on this like type of clustering up. We look at different ways to make small communities, smaller neighborhoods, smaller cities, and maybe that's because of our the sense of culture, how we tend to need to spread out in all over the coast. But this is something we see as super interesting. This is Sande. Here's a lot of regulations that these farmlands shouldn't be touched, so we work inwards. This is a plan. This is 10 years ago. It's still in progress. So in that sense, this is a river city. This is a strong city up in the north in Mo i Rana, where there's a lot of industrial stuff. Still clustering. We're working with clusters all the way. So these structures gives us a kind of approach to each of our more urban tasks. So, but this is maybe the most important. As I said earlier, nature, how we realize the dreams we share for a regenerative future, when the most successful urbanism we know of comes from a total domination of the natural world. And this is the modernism way. This is the way of approaching, as we learned at school. Our generation now is different, maybe. So it's like a new way of looking at it. So when we did this in Shanghai, we started in 2022. This is a project that Navid will talk about a little bit later in the lecture. But we dived into how we could actually look at nature in a different way, and how we could integrate it into a social aspect of architecture. So we love these landscapes. These are also landscapes. These are non grata and landscapes that are more or less non-planned. But we work with this in a way that we feel that we can actually give something back and lift up nature. So we worked on this snowflake that we called it. On this one, it's on top of a garage park, and we renovated the house between. But we worked with the elements, reshaping, reusing, and also pulling nature into the project. Another project that was a landfill. Here we were asked to actually look at the city, how we could expand from here. But this is a small place. So our approach was not to actually build on this site. They wanted to build on it. And our approach was not to build on it, to make nature become a part of it, and then use these more structures that are from the old times, where you put it on poles, you moved houses, you did and this is in the north, so it's like a 3-meter span of the water. So this is like a water park that changes through the day and gives something back instead of urbanizing everything. So and then also working beneath the water to regenerate. This is another project we've been working on for 10 years. It's it's going to be built. It's starting building now. It's like a TV school. It's a campus. It's a university. It's like office buildings, and it's also a station. But it's also a really important river that flows through it. And the river was what we won the project with, and also what we wanted to look at in detail, how we could actually pull the nature into the site and work with how we could integrate these structure and have a relationship to the river. And the last one I'm going to show about nature is Bodø, which is also all the way up in the north. This is a geopolitic, really intense place. It's not far from Russia, and a NATO base has been placed here a long time ago, and then it disappeared. As you know, the tension got lower, and now the tension is back. So there's a lot of things happening. So we wanted to we were asked to, actually, they're going to move this the airport, which is here. They're going to move it over here, and then they wanted to see what they're going to do. So we put Manhattan on it just to show that that's not a good idea. Some think it's a good idea, but that's actually lower side of Manhattan. But then after the joke, we said that, okay, why don't you? This is like a span over like 100 years, because there's not many people there. So it's a plan that's going to be live for 100 years. So we said, plant a tree, and they will come. So this is our proposal, and we said that if you plant this, you can slowly grow it. And by doing that, and also having this like a master plan, not being like set, but it talks about 12 neighborhoods, not about like the structure, and how you can get to this point. So by planting, you can engage the people. You can engage in like a relationship to the ground and to things that grow, and you can also see time in this this proposal. So it's on the way. It's been when we do these like long plans, it's hard to show what happens. If I took a picture now, you can see this road. It's down there, and it's like 6 years ago. So. But and we're working on now moving this one. So it's super interesting, and but it's a long-term place-making plan on how to make a different kind of city. So, but now let's go to a small city, and a city we love and we've been working on for many years. And Navid has also lived there for 10 years. So it's like not only a place-making project as architects coming from the outside, it's like an inside job, call it. So, Navid.
What is very important in our work is always trying to understand the place, and then understand the aspect of storytelling. Because in Norway, the tradition of telling stories through generation, for your kids, for everyone, it's still a very alive tradition. So creating a good narrative whenever we are starting a project is always the most crucial part. This is Lofoten. It's above the Arctic Circle, all the way up north. I tried to draw this section. It's very simple. But basically, Lofoten is you have to excuse the Norwegian, but it's basically the mountain diving into the ocean. And just on that little threshold, there is maybe a little bit of flat surface. That's where they have put the main road that goes through the whole region. And there's only one road. You can turn right or you can turn left. But what happens is, due to avalanche, there is a restriction zones coming down from the mountain. And due to, waves and storms, and you have to take consideration to the water, there is a restriction zone coming from there. And since this is a main highway, you cannot build anything closer than 50 meters from each side. So this is basically the challenge of this whole region. And at the same time, people want to build schools, churches, we have tourists, people want to create a factory. So how the hell do we approach this situation? So 10 years ago, we started a small office there. And every day we are really trying to experiment and try to solve some of these problems. Because these are the same rules that Petter has down in the bigger cities, but the same rules apply to a small area like this. So when you as an architect even want to build one tiny house here, this is all of the different restrictions and chaos that you have to navigate through. This is perhaps a little more professional drawing of my sketch, which shows the mountains that span maybe up to 500, 600, 700, and then you have this little surface of land. This is a very simple elevation, taking and showing how concentrated everything is along the side. And this is a diagram that shows what the images do not, which is people are getting older. And people in these areas, they have done what they have always been best at, and that is fishery. Now the average age is close to 60 years old. And if you look at what's the most predominant typology, that's a single house, which is spread out everywhere, which means you have to have a car if you want to move around, right? And living isolated on an island, because Lofoten is basically an island. So these are island people. And until the 70s, there were no roads, there were no bridges. So they've been living here isolated for many generations. And still today you will find settlements from the old Vikings, and you will find tools from the Stone Age. So people have been living here for thousands of years, and only the last 50 years suddenly the outside world is coming in. Suddenly tourism has discovered this place. So one of the main things or main reasons that we were engaged as architects was to help the local people with visitors, because they have been living there alone, and suddenly every summer, I didn't say it, but in this city, I live there, there is 287 people living there. So I know the name of everyone. But every summer, more than 1 million comes there and visit. So it's a very huge stress on infrastructure, on everything that is available. So this is a picture taken in, let's say, in end of April. 1 month later, the same road, it's so many cars and people that wants to go there. So it's basically one traffic line that goes for maybe 6 or 7 kilometers, and nothing happens, like everything stops up, right? And it's beautiful that people want to visit Lofoten and discover this island, but what has happened is that everybody is walking everywhere, so the nature is also getting dissolved. So back to what Peter was talking about. For us, working with Lofoten, we had to try to understand the whole landscape and try to create a system to navigate the tourism. So one of the things we always do is try to find a concept. This is called the Fredvang loops, or you can call it Lofoten loops. But basically, instead of people just going in one direction or in every direction, we try to find some hotspots and say maybe we can guide the tourism in a way that will benefit the place. Hence, we will have more money in the place, and then you can develop and even make some more architecture there. This is a bit, simplified and tabloid, but it's easy to communicate when we are working with these things. So attraction, and you have to combine it with some sort of sustainability. That's the basis for how we want to create a master plan for this area. And we did that by spending a lot of time in the mountains and in all of the villages and walking with the people, hearing where they like to go, where they think it's safe for other people to go. And did this 1 year of mapping and finding out how you can provide people what they want to see. And based on this, let's say, data, this information, we try to simplify it into a language which is more visual and a bit more attractive. And of course, part of this is also looking at places that you can solve really practical problems like the parking issue. The municipality had an abandoned school, so one part of our architectural task is to show different options how to solve that. We can of course make one really efficient parking place. You can use 99 of the place for parking, maybe you'll get a little bit niceness, or you can start to talk with the client and say, well, what if we only exploit 75% of the parking? Then maybe we can do something else which will give more value. So we will end up with more than what you started with. And this is a very typical place in Lofoten. You have an abandoned building and nobody uses it. And we try to find maybe the cheapest and simplest way of building in relation with the local people that are working there. The concept for this structure was actually very fairly simple. In Lofoten, we have been living off the fish for 10,000 of years. You get the fish during winter and you hang it up for it to dry, and then you ship it off to Portugal to make the bacalhau, you send it off to Italy, so we have a very direct global export. But this fish is basically what has made Lofoten rich. And these structures for hanging the fish you will find everywhere in the landscape, and people always stop to take pictures of it. So we thought, let's build a super simple structure. And the other thing you have in Lofoten is a lot of this seaweed. From the boating industry and from the different people working on every fishing village, we can create a system that uses their own material, and they can weld it and create a system of really simple columns and some sort of roof, so that this will be like a recognizable tectonic for the project. No matter if it's summer or winter, when you walk around, you see this from a distance, and whenever you get close, you understand that it smells and looks a bit more cool than you thought at first. But basically, this was a super simple structure that during in winters and snow, this will put like an ice top on top of it. During summers, the birds can put a nest. And we work together with the municipality and the people to find different positions where we can do this very simple thing with prefabricated column slabs and these elements. I'm just going to go fairly fast to this, but it's about creating some sort of language using the local skills and using the local materials. And one part of our work is also going and understanding what is working and mapping how things best can be used. So we ended up having a really nice 3D model of entire Lofoten, where we have gone into depth and tried to create these new pathways where we can take the tourists. And then together with the biologist, or together with that one guy who is a carpenter, we can go down into specific spots that normally has been wear down, and we can say you can use the same concept, and maybe we can find a place to both regenerate the nature, but you can have your view and what you would like to do. So working on this strategical level, having a story, having a narrative, this is very important part of our kind of, let's say, laboratory. But even if you zoom in from the larger landscape, we try to use this when we talk to people, even in this like really small village. So our office is right, let's see, right there. And this is the main, let's call it, it's not a city, but this is like the city of the municipality. They have a very beautiful beach. A lot of tourists come there. But they also have a harbor where all of the fishing gets processed. So we try to plant these ideas to the local people that, you know, let's try to find one hotspot, one hub, that at least these two somehow can meet, because they are mutually interesting and depending on each other. So one of the things we did, because of the fish landing place, they wanted to expand, and there were some old, really beautiful houses. So we suggested to move that closer to the city hub, where the store is. Now we have been in the process of mapping and taking down all of the constructional elements to build it up again. I'm sure you are known with these type of transformation projects. I'm not going to go too much into it. But the reason we were able to do that is because maybe 100 years ago, 150 years ago, we didn't have trees in Lofoten. So when people built a house or made a house and they wanted to move, or they married, they want to go to another farm, they always brought their house with them to the new place. So this is from winter. So this is what we also did. We suggested that you move these two old houses and we can put them in a new place in order to both save the history built on the tradition, but then also try to do something new. In Lofoten, in the Arctics, you have, in the summer, you have the midnight sun. So the sun never goes down. And in the winter, it's always dark. So this is probably around 2 p.m. in the daytime. We are walking our house. And just to use another example too, many of the old settlers, when they were out and getting their fish, and suddenly if it was really nice weather, or if they knew they had some family visiting, they would pull up their boats and they would create these temporary meeting places, and both the young and the old, they could do some common activities. Some can sit there and clean the fish, someone would put them in the barrels to ferment it, and the kids will maybe learn from the old people, while some people were out shopping. So this idea is nothing new to us, and it's nothing new to the village, but we try to show them this when we're developing a project. So let's say this area, people has always walked there. No matter if it's summer or winter, there are certain things, certain habits that we don't want to change. So here, we were asked to design a housing community for older and young people. So we suggested, instead of doing like many simple houses, we said, let's make 2 clusters, like the old picture we saw from the old times, and try to play on the fact that if you create these clusters, it will be like back in the days where someone can sit and do something, and when someone is walking to the playground, maybe they will look at what you're doing, ask questions, people will get in touch. But also emphasizing or creating more and more indoor and outdoor public spaces so that everyone can use it. So that under everyone's roof, you have a place to sit. This image is from where the first settlement in Lofoten was discovered, maybe 10,000 years ago. And people somehow intuitively understand this idea of shelter, and they understand this idea of clusters. So even though we are playing with, some modern typologies and trying to create different stuff, we want the feeling and the space that we create to somehow resonate something that is familiar. And during the dark times, always, I think, for us, it's important to understand a bigger system, hence the loops that we were showing you. So maybe this is one of the smaller loops where all of the tourists then can maybe go along being part of something better. I'm not going to go too much into the plans and the regulation zones. Maybe that's a bit boring. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing we do when we draw our projects is to always think, how will the individual have a comfort and a shelter in their own place, but how can the buildings together also create this common place, a common ground or a community or like a good neighborhood. And always trying to build upon that and showing that to people in order to convince them this is a good project. And for each 6 months we have a meeting, we try to go up in scale. So we start in 1 to 1,000, and then maybe it's 1 to 500, 1 to 10, and eventually it will be 1 to 1, and it's finally built. We are almost there.
Yeah.
Yes, I will give the word back to Peter.
That was a small place. Now we're zooming a little bit out, and as you all know, especially architects that are struggling to earn money, to live. But that's important for you guys also. But I think one of the most important things is to have a good client. And we have some good clients in Lofoten. We have some good clients everywhere. But one of our biggest clients has become the Norwegian Railway Company. And it's a bit strange. But we've been working with them for a long, long time. We think what happens now in architecture is that we're like turning this. Before we always built on the green areas, the open areas, the places where there were nothing. Now we have to turn this one, and we have to densify, and we have to build on brownfield. And that's the harbor, but it's also the railway companies. And the railway companies has a really important role in Norway because we have a real estate railway company inside of the railway company. So that's what you're going for, because these are the guys that earn money that goes back to the state. So there's a really important task for the railway company's real estate to actually do some good. And every penny they earn, they put back into making more railways, but also good societies in this. And back to what we talked about with this long country, with these small places, lots of tiny valleys where there's goes a railway or there goes a bus. And it's really important for this to function. So I picked this one up. It's a mixed city in Bangkok. It's a market. But if you look down at the end of the picture, you can see actually the train goes through the market. And this is probably a really important way of looking at how the railway company can actually build a society and also build the railway. So we have invited them, and this is some of us. And there's some railway company people in here. So it's really important to try to work together as a group, as to be able to work with these fantastic areas. This is a bit not so fantastic, but it's like the essence of how we see our cities in Norway. So we've been working with this for like 10 years, lots of plans, lots of buildings, lots of areas, smaller, bigger. Been working with mobility in many ways, how we can connect. And this is a good picture. We work with this area, and there's like a housing area here. But you have the train here. This is outside Trondheim, a small place. You have the buses, and you have like this fantastic way. It's like giving mobility a pleasure. So this is in Sogndal, this is in Lillestrøm, this is in Ålesund. They're all about how we can connect the city to this mobility. So when our city is the river city, has been a railway city for like 150 years almost, no, yeah, since 1866, and has been the people there, the culture is about the river, but it's also about the railway company. So when the railway company started to actually do lots of rearranging 10 years ago, we said that now you have to be on top of how you're going to make this city as a fantastic city. So we looked at the city, and then we found out that all these areas is owned by the railway company. So we went in and said that, okay, this is like a connected line in a city where there's gray areas. So you see this is all gray. There's some railways, there's like a harbor thing. And we said that, okay, if you take away the railroads that you're going to build, then you're like 560,000 square meters of city. So you're actually the city mayor here. So we said that, okay, let's help you. That's where the money comes in. So, but really important for us, because we live here, we have our office here, and there's lots of architects that is invited into this, but it's really important to have a master plan of how you work. And then, as you can see, there's a lot of things here, but then maybe the most important thing for us is how can you start this, because it takes time. It takes like 100 years. So let's enjoy this at day one. So we said that, okay, the railway company, here we have a river city. People are like diving into the ocean. Even every Friday we do this. It's fantastic. So we made this small, tiny little sauna here. And it got so popular that it had, and they didn't want to, we used a little bit too much money on this one, so they bought a ready one here. But this became a place in this line, this long line of how we could develop. And then we also started this involvement, looking for old places, streets, the music, everything. And then we created this flow of new spaces inside of this. And we wanted to, because they were really important for them to keep it inside of their, of course, area. But it condensed over to the whole city. So the city got involved in many ways. Here is one example of really, we tear down this one. And we set a bench over here. And we're now starting planting potatoes over here. So that's actually, I did that 1 week ago. But it's actually doing fantastic things to the area. It opens up. So, and it's a part of a bigger plan of how to actually make this place. So creating these places, which is like we set out some chairs, and we also worked with the sponge. So this area is like, these are all the things that we found around. We made this sponge that can take up the water, like you have here for like 1 second ago, because we also have a lot of flood water. So this is a sponge, but then we get the whole area to participate in actually doing it and planting it and working on it. So these are all places around. We're doing like 7 or 8. And here we have the urban spaces. We do like this. Take some old reused materials from the school. We found this one over at the place. We got this for free. And then it started to be a place, and creating this long line of strategies. And for us, it's like a testing. It's like testing. Is it good? Does people come? Do they start fighting? Do they meet their girlfriend? I don't know. So, and that's observing all these like social structures is really important when we have so much time. So, and for instance, we have this truck garage, which it's fantastic, and we got this people from the area. And we made this into a fantastic place where we could talk about architecture, how we could actually do the line. We do different kind of Yeah, here is actually the Swiss Architectural Associates came here. I don't know why, but maybe there was not much time in Oslo, but we were really enjoying talking about architecture in another way, because this is like we're turning it upside down. Having the big plan, but also trying to loop ideas into the plan then. Yeah, here we work with co-living, so there's a lot of, this is about 6,000 housing in this whole area, so we work with different types of co-living structures. It's going to take time, some self-made, but also places where they need to earn money also. So there's a mix-up, but it's really good to work on it. And then this is probably the most important for the railway company, because they work with mobility. And of course you enter into the station here, which is brand new, but then what do you do? So then connecting this to the areas they own, working with how this smaller micro mobility, yeah, there's a lot of things, but also they wanted to lift it into the ocean as a river people. So now they sponsored these, and they're gonna start after summer. So it's a fantastic way to actually grow a plan into the city as a big development plan. So and we also got some TV and film production. Making this into that, we thought that okay, this has to be like we have to emphasize something over here, maybe something here is more like every day, maybe here is more like so there's a lot of ideas. This plan is like being made as they go. So and when you have one owner and a 5-kilometer structure, it's easy, but it's also very important to work on this. So, and we won this one, and that's an office building that's divided into 13 buildings. So we scaled it down. We said that okay, Drammen is a small city, but of course you need to earn money. We will make 35,000 square meters, not in 2 buildings like the rest of the other ones that we were competing against, and we made this like cluster. So then again, the idea of how to make this cluster up ideas from the high up in the mountains down to the inner city, and getting this tension of having this open first floor. So this is also starting from next year, then we're gonna build this one. It's a bit like a Seoul density, not like Drammen, but we were really happy that they actually did it, because there's not many that, of course there's much more to earn of making like 2 buildings, big buildings, 1 floor, 1,100. Here's like 350 square meters, but you have to work in another way. So we have set up a completely different way to how to work together on this one. So that was the last one. And then the movie, Navid. Tell us a little bit about the movie.
We can see if it works.
Last 5 minutes.
One thing, and this is the last thing we're going to show, but what we also spend a lot of time doing is being curious and being outside and talking to people.
And also inviting people to see what we do differently.
Let's see. How can I make this large? Because Drammen is also a city that's already been built, and there is still many places that haven't been built. So what we just started recently to do, and this is just a rough cut, it's not a finished movie at all, but we invited some skaters and some friends of ours, and we had one mission, and it's to go and explore this city line. Because whenever someone makes a building, they have a lot, and they make their buildings within their limits. And when you make like a city zoning plan, you also divide it into limits. But people, they move across these limits, right? People, they move across different materials, different spaces, whatever. So this is also one part of our, let's say, experimentations. So here we just wanted to examine how is the flow in the city, how are the different places connected together, and we take this and show it to the people and to the municipality. And our response so far is just that many people are thinking, oh, I never knew that existed, or oh, I've never been there, or I couldn't imagine that this could be a place to hang out. But also the people that we get part of this, they get a bit more curious about what is city development, what is architecture, how can you use these places and not. So in one sense, this is like a really small glimpse into what Drammen is and the scale of Drammen. And it's also a continuous work in progress. That's the Norwegian president of the parliament who wanted to also join us for this movie. And while this is playing, maybe I can just take down the sound and start fading out, or...
What is also symbolizes is also these parallel societies that are working with the city in different ways, and it's good to give them like a boost or like a scene to be a part of how we could work on the city together to lower tension and to find out good ways that it's room for everybody. That was a famous Marvel actor, actually. Oh. Yes, we put in some... And this is all in this line of the railway companies. They own all. He's been wherever he's skating. It's part of their territory.
And I think that was it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for presentations and your speech. And we can get some question from the students.
Of course.
Yes. Any question from students? Yes.
Thank you very much for your lecture. It was really interesting, and as you mentioned, you're really good at telling stories. One thing I found really interesting in the remote in general was your approach to time, the way you mentioned about it from the concept of 100 years and 2023. Of course, it's in the spirit of time is sustainability and so on, but I feel that the way you formulate it and maybe think about it is quite unique. So I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about that, the project, your practice. That sounds quite interesting and work with video as well as and in a second time, if you were commissioned tomorrow to build in a mega city such as, for example, Seoul, where the notion of time is different and also where building demolition is pretty much the national sport. I was wondering if you would keep the same approach or you would adapt in this context.
That's two really great questions. I can answer it a little bit shortly. I mean, I graduated as an architect in 2013, so I still have a very, my experience is almost so much. But the projects I started working on independently 13 years ago, it's only now that they are starting to be realized. So it's a field that takes a lot of time, you know. And then you can always try to make a decision. Do you do a project where the plot is set, the program is set, and you can enter competition and assign something that gets realized? Or do you want to also take some steps back and be part of the process that defines what would be the scenario or the playground for war architecture? So at least in my experience, I think this, I don't think it's, I don't think we're trying to be neither romantic or poetic about the notion of time. It's more like a confession that things takes a whole lot of time, at least in Norway. So we just have to work with it and start to think really far ahead. I don't know if you want to add to that, or if you want to design Seoul City, then what would you do then?
It's about sustainability, of course. It's about this having these long lenses on, and then also having the short lenses. Not only focusing on like what's new, also like materials in Norway. We've been working with wood now for like a long time. We built a few schools in massive wood, but now suddenly they start to cleanse the CO2 and they put it out to the sea. So suddenly the concrete is like more sustainable than the massive wood. So it's always changing. It's but I think we are looking for the few things that are not changing, or a lot of things that are not changing, but how people are together, how we interact, how we love, how we hate, how we like. These are all things that are really important, and of course nature is like a solid thing. We know a lot about nature. It's of course changing because of our society is changing. So, but we have to adapt to nature's own way. I think it's we see more and more, and also the structure that we do will sit there for a long time. So it's also important that these structures has this ability to take up these changes.
Thank you for the presentation. It was quite insightful and interesting. I wanted to ask you about the cluster thing you guys initially talked about, like how you wanted to create like communities, like host communities. But I wanted to talking about like big cities, like in contrast to a lot of like the towns in Norway, where the cities are like really dense. At what point do you think cluster becomes like a really dense and like undesirable place compared to it being a really like a nice peaceful community?
Yeah, I think it's about neighborhoods. because clusters can also be seen as neighborhoods. We have this long coast and small villages, and they need to. And clusters is also not about having this gated community. It's not about it at all. It's more like having this place where you actually can. Where you triple program it, for instance, or you use the space 3 times, and it's open to everybody. So it's like a romantic idea, of course, but I think it's more about when you grow into bigger cities as well, not talking about neighborhoods. Because it's like London, there's lots of neighborhoods, and they're evolving, and the city is working with it as a good thing. Where there's like challenges, they go in and do like changes, and I think it's also an idea of talking about neighborhoods, how they work.
It's also very, it's an ambition to enforce a social quality and also to enforce microclimates. Because there will always be one corner that has some sun, whereas one corner that doesn't have too much wind. And instead of walking around one big building, you can find your own shortcut. And maybe, so it's also about creating ways of moving through the city and building, as you would do, let's say, in the countryside or in the nature. So there is an ambition to try to find something very human about it, which we believe that we do. How is the work going for everyone? Has it been a long day?
I have one question. Actually, what you guys shown today is mostly based on Norway to make to design for placemaking. So I do quite like to see the kind of city based on stations in order to design for the decentralized. So I think some densities can be from. And I think the aims of station, the railway component seems quite different from outside. So maybe I thought you guys did any Korea before. So have you thought, is there possible to compare or try those things in Korea? Because I think some placemaking should be different here in terms of density and also to drive more to 20 million people in this field.
Yeah.
So I think maybe have you got any idea about your thinking how to maybe convert this initial idea?
Yeah, definitely. That's why we're here. So we're here to learn.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And of course, we also work in Oslo and Bergen and Trondheim, also in cities in the Nordic region. But there's different ways to look at it. But I think the how you insert something and you look how it grows and where it goes, and then you learn from it. It's like a looping idea. I think that could be something that you could work on anywhere. So if you have bold clients or railway companies or mayors, you can actually go in and do a master plan that's not so set, and it has this like change ability. I think that's super important because it's so rapidly. The changes are really rapidly these days. So we need to have good plans that can actually adapt to the different direction it will take. So that's why the openness of a way of thinking and also the inclusiveness of the people is super important for having a good development.
Yeah.
And that's the same part. But we also have this regulation. I didn't take the regulation part with this like really boring stuff, but it's also interesting how we could work with the tools to make these things happen.
And the more practical, I don't really understand, and you could really with that actually, I don't know what to do that, but in the practical speaking in Korea, it's not easy to casting or put something in temporarily to build up the whole master plan on the plannings with the government. It's quite difficult. So, let's see.
Yeah, but of course, if you saw the master plan along there was also a structure which is like laid down.
Yeah.
So there is a kind of traditional way of looking at it, and then you have these layers of testing. Not to like, it's not tabula rasa. You can't do anything you want. So you need a kind of a step by step, I think, and then having the framework in the front.
I know at least 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't that common to do one small little acupuncture project while we are looking for the big thing. And I think more and more architects in Norway have really started to take up the fight and try to convince the commissioner or convince the municipality. Normally, if you convince the municipality, it will be easier for them. They will make it a requirement. And it's only in the last, let's say, 15 years maybe or so that it's been more and more common and part of the building law in Norway that you have to have a participatory process and a workshop. They don't say anything about doing like a one-to-one building or doing like something like that, but it's becoming more and more common because people see the value of it and they really fight for it.
Okay. So any more questions from students? Right. Okay, so if not, we are ending up for this event.
Great to see you guys, and we look forward to see what you have been doing as well.
Okay,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Have a great day.
We are having tomorrow a review from 9 o'clock. Okay? So see you tomorrow. Thank you.